Hey, having some technical challenges. Give me a few minutes.
No,
It's just
you get here when you get here.
okay. Cool.
We're ready?
You are live, Mayor.
Okay, let's call to order the City Council meeting for November 23rd. Before the roll call, City Attorney has an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Assembly Bill 361 suspends certain provisions of the Brown Act, allowing public meetings like this one to be held by teleconference to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Ask the mayor to recognize me after the roll call to confirm certain matters for the record.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Armstrong.
Here.
Councilmember Veros.
Yeah.
Councilmember Zafar.
Here.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Here.
Mayor Hudson.
Here, we recognize the City Attorney.
Thank you again. Based on the responses to roll call, please let the record reflect that all council members can hear the proceedings clearly. And if there are no objections, the record will further reflect that each council member believes, based on voice or facial recognition or otherwise, that persons representing themselves to be council members are in fact council members.
Yes, we are.
And seeing no objection there, I'll turn the meeting back over to you, Mr. Mayor, and remind you that all votes must be taken by roll call.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is announcements. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda tonight?
There are no changes or additions.
Oh, we like that. Okay, next item is 3.2. If you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on the agenda item. You will then be unmuted when it's your turn to make your comments for up to 3 minutes. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted. Next item is 3.3, boards, committee, and commission meetings. A complete list of upcoming meetings may be found on the city's website at www.sanramon.ca.gov. Subscription service is available at the link for automatic meeting notification. Contact the city clerk with questions, 973-2539. Public comment is now open. If you wish to speak on a public comment on this item, as I told you before, please use the raise your hand. I see one hand up already. Call in user 1, you have 3 minutes.
Mayor Hudson, prior to public comment, do you want to read just the items that are to be addressed under public comment? Or would you
No,
like
let
me
her go.
to?
Let's do it.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Happy Thanksgiving, first of all. And I have 2 things I would like to comment. Number 1 is the recent alarm policy that was vetted. I just want to say that as a Taiwanese American, I'm very concerned that if there should be infiltration of communist Chinese in our city, that they can use the knowledge that you request, which is where are the glass breakers in my house? Where are
That's on the
sensors?
agenda tonight. What is the second one that you have? With the item
Well,
you're
this is
talking
public
about, you can
comment,
speak
so
to on
it's supposed to be
10.2.
non-agenda item, right? It's
Yeah.
supposed to be non-agenda item.
No, yes, but the item you're speaking to is on the agenda. It's 10.1. So what is the second item?
Okay, the second item is that there has to be a fair way that people who disagree can live in the same space. And the repeated looting and destroying, vandalism, destroying private businesses, just because they can, due to our politicians condoning such behavior is truly very disgusting. And I really want to urge the officials to please uphold law and order. We all have to live abiding by the same set of laws. And I'm also very disgusted that our jury system is being attacked by social media, by social justice. It is unbecoming. We are Americans, and we have a way of ensuring that our society has justice, and it's not through social media, it's not through social justice, it is through proper court system, especially when there is a panel of jury. These people are you and me. They are our fellow citizens. They don't have any ulterior motives. They cannot be, bribed or, things like that. People have to respect the system, or we might as well just, live like barbarians, because then we don't have a shared set of values. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak under public comment? Seeing none, is there any written comment for this evening?
We have no written public comment.
Okay, public comment is closed. Consent calendar item is open. Items are considered routine and they are acted upon by the city council with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to provide public input may request by email to the city clerk that the city council remove the item from the consent calendar. Has there been any emails to remove the consent calendar item?
We've had no requests for.
Anyone from the council wishing to move or remove a consent calendar item? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
Sorry, before we get a motion, we need to make an announcement regarding item 5 on the consent calendar, Mayor.
Okay. Item 5 is the approval of the Fourth Amendment to the agreement for the employment of the city. I do not have an announcement in front of me. Is the city attorney going to make the announcement?
You do have it in front of you.
I can make the announcement.
Yes, please.
Do the announcement.
Before a motion is made to approve the consent calendar, in accordance with Government Code Section 54953C3, the employment contract between the City of San Ramon and Martin License for services as city attorney include the following terms. Compensation increase to $256,230 annually, and all city benefits provided to other city department heads.
Thank you. I do have it in front of me. I've got all kinds of things right here in front of me. Moving too quickly for you. Okay, we made the announcement. We have a motion, Perkins.
5-1-2-5-7.
I can second.
And a second so far. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Before roll call, can we also get the reading of the ordinance on item 5.7, please?
5.7. Reading of the ordinance 5.510 by title only. And I don't have that in front of me.
Would you like me to read it?
Yes.
Ordinance 510, repealing and replacing Title A, Division A6, Travel, Chapter 1, Travel by City Personnel of the City of San Ramon Municipal Code.
Sounds good to me. Still the same motion, still the same second, still the same roll call vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Veros, Councilmember Veros,
Yes.
Councilmember Zafar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
Mayor Hudson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sounds like a 5-0 to me. That's unanimous. On to item 6. There's no special presentations, no deferred consent items for 7, no city council appointments for 8, no unfinished business for 9. So let's get on to the new business, which is a public hearing, introduction of ordinance, next in line, repealing and replacing Title B, Division B7, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare. That's Chapter 4, Alarm Systems of the San Ramon Municipal Code. I believe, Alicia Poon, you have the staff report.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Hudson, Vice Mayor Perkins, council members, city staff, and the public. I'm here to introduce this ordinance. I'll be brief. The main reasons for this update is, one, we've had a lot of habitual false alarms, which unnecessarily have occupied a significant amount of San Ramon Police Department resources. And second, we realize that the alarm ordinance is very outdated and requires an update to be current with new technology and alarm operations. And a lot of the information I have in my staff report, I don't want to repeat, but I do want to point out that one of the main, there's a list of notable changes to the alarm ordinance in my staff report. And one I wanted to point out was that all alarm users in the city would need to register and obtain alarm permit, and there's no fee to register for the initial alarm permit or to renew your alarm permit. And it's important to note that you would not need to register if you do not have an alarm system. We're not forcing anybody to get an alarm system. It's if you have an alarm system, you would just need to register. The ordinance was taken to policy committee, and the policy committee took the or expressed support, of the ordinance, and the same ordinance that went before the policy committee is before you tonight. They did ask a few questions that I just want to briefly go over, and went over some topics, and one of which is how many false alarms the police department receives. And you'll see that before the pandemic, it was over 3,000 a year. And during the pandemic, it was less, still in the thousands, but that can be attributed to people staying at home and businesses being closed. The question was, why does the permit year follow a calendar year rather than the city's fiscal year? And the police staff decided that it was easier for residents and for the administration of the alarm program to do it over a calendar year. And figure out if anybody has false alarms, how many false alarms occur during a calendar year versus remembering the city's fiscal year. And it's also important to note that the town of Danville follows the same calendar year timeframe. And then how does this ordinance apply to tenants versus property owners who rent to tenants? And it just noted that the alarm user definition is purposely broad enough to require that a person who obtains alarm permit is the person if they own, lease, or operate the alarm system. But ultimately, if there's habitual false alarms that lead to civil penalties, it will be the property owner that will be responsible for rectifying those false alarms and paying for any fines. And this is similar to the approach for code enforcement violations on properties. Another topic was community engagement, information education, and how staff will be implementing that to the community. Staff has mentioned that they will be working with their contractor to develop an education and outreach program. And some of the ways they've mentioned is posting information on their website, both the San Ramon PD website, the city website, creating pamphlets, and for pamphlets to distribute at city counters, and also to include with business license renewals, I'm sorry. And in including information in a future city newsletter, social media campaigns, and outreach at community events. And I believe the staff can elaborate, but I think they also mentioned that they would go to business or shopping centers such as like City Center and other shopping centers to do outreach with their management. And lastly, there's a question about civil penalties and how they would be collected and when would they be sought. And fines aren't going to be collected until the second false alarm and above. The first false alarm occurs no fine, but just a written warning. The alarm user can contest the fines by filing an appeal, and they can speak with San Ramon police staff anytime to explain any mitigating circumstances that would justify reducing or eliminating the fines. And San Ramon PD has mentioned that they will not be heavy-handed in issuing the fines, and their contractor will follow suit by whatever the San Ramon Police Department decides to do. And fines will be invoiced and mailed to the offending alarm user. And if they don't appeal or timely contest their fines, then they may be sent to collections. Before they go to fines, San Ramon PD said they would be taking a significant amount of time to educate the community and offending alarm users about the ordinance and how they can reduce false alarms before ultimately going to the fine that you see, the fine schedule that you see in the ordinance. And just to conclude, there's going to be a very minimal fiscal impact. San Ramon PD is going to use a contractor for their invoicing and I guess collecting, but there won't be, it just, I think they may have more data about what they anticipate is the revenue, but I think it's not a huge amount, but there's a slight increase. And I just want to say the police staff is on hand if you have any questions about the operation and statistics, and I can answer any questions about the ordinance language. And staff recommends that you accept my staff report, introduce the ordinance, waive the reading and read by title only, open the public hearing, take public testimony, close the public hearing, and set the ordinance for adoption at the December 14th, 2021 City Council meeting. With that, that's the end of my presentation. I'm here for questions as well.
Thank you. Sounded good to me. Questions of staff, Vice Mayor Perkins and Councilmember Zafar.
Yeah, I know there may be some questions in the public about confidentiality of the applications and registration forms. And that's covered in section B7-47 titled confidentiality. And I'll just briefly read that for the audience's information. It says, in the interest of public safety, all information contained in and gathered through the alarm permit registration forms, false alarm records, applications for appeals, and any other alarm records or information received or requested by the city pursuant to this chapter shall be held in confidence by all employees and or representatives of the city. That means it's not available to the public, even through a Public Records Act request. At least that's my interpretation. Is that true, Alicia? So somebody using Public Records Act request can't gain access to that information. Okay.
That is correct, Vice Mayor Perkins. The Public Records Act specifically actually calls out alarm records as something that is exempt.
Okay. So this information we're going to collect through this free registration process, I'll emphasize, will be confidential. It'll be withheld. It'll be held only by the police department, and it won't even be accessible by employees outside the police department unless there's a specific need identified. But this is going to remain confidential, and I think that's an important part of this. I think it's important that people recognize that when you have 3,000 false alarms, that's taking police time away from other police duties if it's a false alarm. That is a waste of their time and your time as well, you know, the owner of the alarm system. So I hope this will help people to be prudent in their use of their alarm system. Thank you. That's all I had.
Councilmember Zafar.
Yeah, so Alicia, I wanted to see the way alarm systems work these days. You order them on Amazon, you install them, and then you go register them, and they offer you a subscription, you know, I don't know how, $20 a month or whatever. And you just subscribe and you're all set. People are kind of used to that user experience. So I don't know if, I don't know what the backend looks like when somebody subscribes. Is that information then sent to PD that if the alarm goes off, you know, these are the people that are subscribed to our service and will be provided, you know, some of them are just dumb alarms if you don't subscribe to the service, which means they'll go off, but it won't, you know, trigger a call or anything. But then for the subscription services, I don't know if there's a way to work with some of these companies to add on this fee as part of what they charge the user versus somebody trying to obtain that. Or, I mean, we have to have some way for people to know as they're unpacking and putting this up that they have to get a permit for it. And that's what I'm thinking about, like, a lot of times, not most people will think about it unless that company which they bought it from at Amazon, whether it's Scout, whether it's Google, whether it's something else. So I don't know if other cities have done this, or how are we kind of, and how does it work at the back end? Because I don't know how. Maybe PD can tell me, how does it work in the back end?
Thank you, Councilmember Zafar. I will pass you over to the PD for their input on that, because that's more operational, which I'm not as well versed in. Thanks.
We got the chief.
Good evening. I can speak on that. And we actually have some representatives from the vendor that we're using. So the way that we're going to communicate, if I understand the question, is when people that are maybe new residents or obtaining an alarm for the first time. So we're going to do a lot of outreach, which I think Alicia had mentioned already. But in addition, the vendor that we're using is going to be reaching out to the primary alarm vendors as well to make sure that they're aware of the ordinance in the city of San Ramon. And just so all of you are aware that this process is in place in many other cities in the Bay Area and frankly across the country. So that'll be a way, in addition to all the things that we're going to be doing in the police department, in efforts beyond that, our vendor will be reaching out to the primary alarm company vendors as well, that are traditionally the ones that have subscribing customers in our community, to let them know of the ordinance so that they can help us with those outreach efforts as well. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure, right? There was something in there that if they saw, 94582 or 94583, they're like, okay, this alarm is being delivered to this address and being registered through there. So subscription is when it's registered, and then they give them some warning or something which lets people know you've got to get a permit.
Yeah, and as Alicia mentioned, our intent is not at all to be heavy-handed in this whatsoever. I think particularly as we're rolling this out, it'll actually be quite the opposite. In a perfect world, we don't collect any money because of any of these violations, because that's really what the goal is that we can get, compliance. As mentioned, we respond to literally thousands of false alarms a year. So not only is it a draw on our manpower, but I also just have some officer safety concerns that when officers continually go to these false alarms, sometimes they may not have the level of alertness that they should, because, okay, this is the 9th alarm I've gone to this shift. So the hope is that we can eliminate these calls to a more manageable number, and again, work with our residents to make sure that we're assisting them in the process the best that we can as well.
Yeah, and I suspect it's also because it's become so easy to install the alarms and subscribe to it that, somebody forgets, opens the door, forgets, and they have 60 seconds to turn it off, and they can't get to the key or whatever in time and not turn it off.
And we'll have information on our website, and we also will do just periodic social media blasts out to the community just as a reminder as well. So this will be continuing efforts to educate our community as we transition.
Yeah, and the HOA boards would be a good resource as well for them to put in their newsletters and let people know that this is being rolled out. Thank you.
Councilmember Zafar, may I add one other thing? In the ordinance, V7-38 requires the alarm installer or alarm installation company to get a city license, and part of the city license, which I mentioned before, they will have some education added into the licensure. So the city staff knows that this is an alarm company, installation company that's asking for a business license. They're going to get a copy of the ordinance or some kind of educational pamphlet to let them know they need to do this. Or if somebody comes by and just inquires, do they need to get a license? They will get information about that. So it'll be there for the public as well as these companies.
Thank you.
Councilmember Armstrong.
My original questions were already answered in the policy committee and then in the staff report, but I did have a follow-up for Chief Stevens, that maybe next year, as part of your annual report back to the city council, you can talk to maybe the effectiveness of this policy on the reduction to the number of false alarms.
Yeah, certainly. We will track this data and definitely we will report back on hopefully a significant reduction. And I think that's been pretty consistent with other municipalities that have gone to this program. So hopefully we will see that same trend.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really want to move this along. It's like exactly what the last council member was saying. You need updates on this thing. What we're doing is repealing and replacing because time's gone on. I can remember from day one, we've had false alarms. I mean, the rain comes and 15 of these things go off. It's crazy. Hopefully they're a little bit better nowadays. Anyway, to move it along, I'll move to introduce the ordinance next in line, repealing and replacing Title B, Division B7, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare, Chapter 4, Alarm Systems of the San Ramon Municipal Code, and waive the reading and open so that we can conduct the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Go ahead. We have a motion by Hudson, second Perkins. Any further discussion?
No, we're going to open for public comment in just a moment.
That'll be after we take the roll call vote for the introduction. Just that same point, I really want to find out if this is changing. I don't want to get too far away from what the chief said. How many false alarms you have to go out during the Christmas season when it's raining or the wind because somebody didn't fix it the first time or the second time or the third time. And I'm hoping really that's what we put an end to is the same false alarm from a location that doesn't get fixed. That has to stop, in my opinion. Chief?
Mayor, if I could just add one thing that I do want to make it clear that if we're getting a lot of activations due to like a weather event or something like that, by no means would our intention be to fine people for those we understand that some things are out of people's control as well.
Yep. Does happen. We actually do get rain once in a while. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll do a roll call vote on the introduction and then I'll take public comment. Christina?
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Veros,
Yes.
Councilmember Zafar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
Mayor Hudson.
Yes.
Thank you.
That sounds like a 5-0. Okay, the public comment is open. If you wish to speak under public comment on this item, please raise your hand on the feature on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone. I see we've got one speaker who was speaking to this earlier. Do we have any others? Seeing none, call in user 1. You have 3 minutes. And we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I have 3 questions. Please kindly answer. First of all, I want to iterate that I support the chief. However, I see that there are going to be run-ins that are not, intentional. For example, I live in a townhome. I have a fire alarm that is triggered whenever, especially in the wintertime. So like when I am cooking something, especially Asian cooking is very smoky. And because it's cold, if, I don't open the window, it will trigger the alarm. And then I don't have any way of shutting it down because it would actually be illegal if I should try to tamper with a smoke or fire alarm in a townhome community. But then somebody can report me if it should go over 10 minutes, and then I can get fined under or, written up under B7-40B. So that needs to be revised because it does not discern, because they sound the same. So the general public outside, they don't know what's going on inside my house. They could think that it's a false alarm, but it's not, because it's a fire alarm or a smoke alarm, and I would contact my HOA. So in that case, I would like to know, what does the city think? And also, I am not going to disclose to anyone in the city where my locations of the sensors and all that are at. And I think it's been revised, right? Can somebody please confirm? In the draft that at the policy committee, I believe it was written that we need to disclose that, but I don't see that in this draft. Please confirm. And also, because now there is a push to hire more diversity, if there's going to be like a communist Chinese employee at the city, I really don't want them to have access to my, information inside my house. And then that, employee may be subject to a communist Chinese law because, he or she was affiliated previously with the Communist Chinese Party and, still has family ties or whatever ties. That is going to have to be addressed. I don't know how you guys are going to keep it like computer. They can possibly even hack it remotely. So to me, those are major concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I got 3 things here, not so much to discuss now, but if someone would research it a little bit and send it to her direct, and that's the fire alarm going off in the HOA. I'm not sure how that relates to the alarm system, but I do see the point, mainly because I had one go off in a hotel room, and something about confirmed locations. That was a difference between what went to policy or came here, if you could clarify that for her and send it to her, and something about the employees. But is there any written comment on this also?
No
Okay.
written comment.
All right, we'll close the public comment. The question before us now is going to be, would we have a motion to close the public hearing so that we
I'll move.
motion Perkins,
I second.
second Burrows. Okay, and it's back before it. Any further discussion other than the 3 things that anybody hit them that would keep them from moving to close the public hearing, other than we could just get some information to the caller in writing? I don't see any hands going up. No further discussion. Can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrows,
Yes.
Councilmember Zafar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
Mayor Hudson.
Yes,
Thank
sounds
you.
like a 5-0. Okay, the council discussion is, are we ready to set this for adoption on December 14th? Anything further you can think of that we could add to the proceedings? I see some head scratching. I see some staring. If not, I will move to set the ordinance and resolution for adoption at the next city council meeting on December 14th. And I don't think we need to put the time there. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second Perkins. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrows,
Yes.
Councilmember Zafar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
and Mayor Hudson.
Yes, we are a very accommodating 5-0 again tonight. Next up, consideration of and direction to staff regarding filling the vacancy on the Parks and Community Service Commission. Staff report's going to be by Christina Franco, the city clerk.
Thank you. Good evening. So tonight we are back again with the vacancy for the Parks and Community Services Commission. In September, the clerk's office was notified of Commissioner Roberts resigning effective immediately. At the October 12th City Council meeting, I did bring this before the council for direction to fill the vacancy, and you directed staff to open a new recruitment to fill the position. The clerk's office, we listed the vacancy on the city's website, our Nextdoor, and all of our social media platforms. And a total of 10 applications were received by the November 9th deadline. 5 of the 10 applicants have been interviewed by the city council this year, and those recordings can be found on the city's website as well. So tonight, staff is requesting for the council to provide direction on how you want to fill the current vacancy. Does the council want to interview all 10 candidates by candidate form, which we've done in the past, and potentially an in-person interview, one-on-one, or appoint by application? So just looking for some direction from the council and your thoughts.
Okay, clarifying questions first, Mr. Perkins.
No, I have an opinion, but I don't have clarifying questions.
Okay. Let's get the public comment out and then we'll go into the opinion, if that's okay. If there any questions of staff? Seeing none, public comment is open for anyone in the public wishing to address this. I don't see any hands. No *9 coming at you. Any written comments, City Clerk?
No written
Seeing none?
comment.
Okay, the public comments closed now, Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yeah, because we have half of the applicants are new to this particular application, and half we've interviewed in the past, I think we ought to do a candidate forum like we have done in the past. We have all 10 candidates on the same Zoom screen, and each of us asks a question, and then you rotate who asks and who answers so that nobody gets a specific advantage. I think that has worked well in the past to have all 10 at once, if we can get all 10 at once.
Good point. Councilmember Zafar, Armstrong, and then we'll do what Councilmember Burrows tells us to do.
Yeah, I'll just agree with Vice Mayor Perkins. I think just, fair enough that getting everybody together on that. I know they've already interviewed, we've already heard them, but I think, fair chance to everyone being there on the same panel.
Okay, Councilmember Armstrong, we've got 2 votes for what do we call that? The rotating 10 or something like that?
Well, likewise, I agree that all should be interviewed. It's 5 previous candidates, 5 new candidates. I think the process is what's important here, and our public transparency and making sure everybody has equal opportunity in order to participate as well as compete. I think it's possible that we could do an in-person meeting. It's just that I wouldn't want to disadvantage some candidates who may not be comfortable going in person for a particular interview. I mean, we could set it up in a community center or somewhere, have them standing by in a room outside, and then call in one at a time. Certainly we could do something like that. Probably at this time, until we're a little bit more opened up, that the Zoom meeting format is probably the best way to proceed.
Agreed. Councilmember Burrows.
I have a question for City Manager Joe. Regarding in-person interview, do we have any restrictions to have in-person if we want to have them?
Well, it depends on when it will be set, but there would be likely a mask restriction, and we would stay compliant. We would do it in a building or a room that would be large enough for social distancing and such.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So I think we should try out with in-person interview in this case, because nowadays, like even my last meeting with Sanamon Historic Foundation, I attended in person in our community center with a mask. So maybe I think we should explore about option of in-person interview. And I think we should do interview for everyone so that they can give their latest updates and get a fresh chance once again to present themselves.
I think before the council member Zafar comes in, I think I just explored it, and I'm going with the majority. But if council member Zafar wants to switch your vote, you're up.
No, I was just going to say, I think in this case with 10 candidates, actually it lends itself better to Zoom. I'm a big proponent of in-person, but it almost seems like this would be a forum which would just lend it that way. If somebody's got issues, driving over is uncomfortable, any of that. And if we have the masks on, it'll be hard to hear them. So
it's the fact of life. I've been doing weddings over here, and this mask is going to be the big thing. There's no getting out, between fogging up and just half the time not understanding what I'm saying to them, let alone what's coming back. And it's uncomfortable enough when you're doing a meeting in person anyway. But I really want to do in-person interviews, but we have said all along that we're not going to hold meetings until we don't have to do the mass. And, it seems to be getting closer. I don't want to put it off past December. And I just don't see that happening before December, my personal feeling. So I can go either way. It doesn't bother me, but I think we ought to stay with the Zoom.
Okay. Sounds
Anybody
good.
else want to add? Go ahead, Sridhar.
No, that sounds good. So if, especially if we want to do like a candidate forum and in person, I was thinking more like if we can do one-person interview, like in the past, where you bring in the candidates and do in-person interview. But if we are planning to do candidate forum, then yeah, Zoom sounds definitely better for me in that case.
Yeah, at 10 gets long, but that's, I think somebody else was going to say that. I see the unmuted Perkins wants to speak.
Yeah,
or
no, I
did he-
just, doing 10 at once, we each get maybe 2 questions each and go around the room, and with 10 people, 5 council members and 2 questions each, that means everybody gets to be first and everybody gets to be last. So nobody gets a distinct advantage in this process, and nobody has a distinct disadvantage. I just think that for health, safety, and convenience, I think that a 10-person forum with 5 council members is our best option.
I think, and I think Councilmember Armstrong's going to say the same thing too, that heaven forbid we set this up for 2 or 3 weeks from now and, oh no, we went back into the orange or something like that. Anyway, go ahead, Councilmember Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about, we want it to be a fair process. But 10 people, 5 council members, 2 questions each, that potentially could go for an extended period of time. Maybe it's just 1 question each, but do we have to decide that tonight, or would we decide that as the date approaches and or when the meeting first kicks off?
I think Christina sets it up for us and we do what we're told. No, I mean, I think it's pretty much what the process we did the last time, but go ahead, Vice Mayor Perkins. And throw in.
If we limit their time,
Answer.
their response time to like 1 minute, so each of them is going to answer, 10 questions, and there's 5 of them. So, it's going to take about an hour and a half or so, and or a little more. We've gone longer than that in some of our in-person interviews. I distinctly remember some that where we started at 5 and we were still talking close to 8 o'clock. So I don't find this too burdensome to do if we limit everybody to 1 minute answers.
And I only do 1 question. Mark, you're still up, and then Sabina.
Well, I've just, since we're talking about it, time-wise, maybe decide whether we want to offer up an opening statement and then with a time limitation on an opening statement from each candidate.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Sabina?
So I was going to say, like, we collect a lot of information in the application itself, which tells us, why they want to apply for this, all of that. So those 4 or 5 questions give a lot of information, and then specific questions, which generally what we've done is, what do we see is important, right, for Parks and Commission, which may not be addressed in those 5 questions, and being, able to get an answer for those questions is good. I've liked this process as well, because I think it's more transparent. People hear each other and know, I've heard candidates, and Councilmember Armstrong, you've been part of a panel like that. You really get to hear, what other people are bringing to the table as well, and why then you get picked as the top candidate. So I think it's a much more transparent process as well when we do this in a virtual panel.
Well, let me make an offer, because I have a feeling that I see that Sridhar is unmuted too. I think you bring up a good point. Everybody, you have 1 minute to, tell us a little bit about yourself or why you want to do this. And also at the end, is there anything more you'd like to add? And I personally would only ask 1 question, kind of just to set it up, because Christina's writing this all down. Sridhar, you're unmuted.
Oh yeah, I'm just listening to that. No questions for me.
Okay, but I mean, along the lines of the 1 or 2, we could, actually, I would say bring at least 1 and be prepared to do 2, and we'll decide, over the next several weeks when we set up these interviews. So there may be 1 or 2 people that don't want to interview, or for whatever reason they're not around, though that didn't seem to stop Lori from calling in from Tahoe. But I mean, it's like, I've seen us go 3 hours if we had to. I don't think we'll have to. I think the big thing is take a minute to introduce yourself or whatever, and take a minute when you go out, and we'll get a pretty good idea. Any further comments on this? And I think that's clear as mud, right, Christina? Yeah,
Yes. I have
she'll come
direction.
up with something. They always do.
Yes.
Okay, is that good? Anybody else for the good of the order want to add something, or are we given direction? We can move on to the highlight of the night.
So just to make sure, so 1 minute for introduction, and then each council member will have 2 questions, and each
Prepared, yeah.
1 minute to answer.
Yeah, and since they're doing that, that's going to be the 2 things. So it might even be that I don't ask a question. I just do that and that. And because usually at the end, somebody throws something at us like, no, I got a couple questions for you. Anyway, but we'll be prepared. I think we've given pretty good direction. Anything more?
Are you, just one follow-up question. Are you looking, I know that you're going back and forth between 1 to 2 questions each. However, I like to give the candidates just kind of a heads up. So are we looking at 1 minute per question response, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? What's
1
minute for everything?
I mean, frankly, that's what we had in the, when we were running for office. That 1 minute comes up quick. But yeah, but you know what? That's really helpful. I can tell you one time we did 30 seconds and you get to the point. You have to formulate what your response is going to be and stick to it. Okay, sound good, everyone? You got it, Christina?
I do.
I see thumbs up. I see shaking heads. Sabina, you got a last word?
Nope.
Okay, you hit the mute or unmute. All right, so much for 10.2. That doesn't need to be a vote. Let's go to 10.3, the election of the mayor pro tempore for the city of San Ramon. Staff report, Christina Franco.
Thank you. The municipal code calls for the council to select one of its members as vice mayor for a 1-year term. This meeting tonight qualifies as the regularly scheduled meeting in November at which the vice mayor is selected. Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you to get nominations and a motion.
Oh, shoot, I was going to give it to you for nominations. Anyway, go ahead, Scott.
I want to nominate my distinguished colleague, Sridhar Barose, to be mayor pro tem of San Ramon for the next calendar year.
Okay, any other nomination? I got a second also. You can have a third if you want. Any other candidates to put up for given this illustrious promotion to vice mayor, mayor pro tem? Seeing none, we'll close the nominations. Any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Any written comment on this? Seeing none, we'll close the written comment. Gosh, we're moving so quick. I'm almost through the paper. Okay, we got motions, we got seconds, we got roll call vote coming up.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilmember Barose?
Okay, Martin, can I vote on this one or do I need to?
Yeah, you can say no if you want to, but I don't care. You're getting it.
Did you vote for yourself in the election?
Yes.
Councilmember Safar?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins?
Yes.
And Mayor Hudson?
I'm thinking. Yes. All right. That's a 5-0 vote. Congratulations. Take 20 minutes and give us a speech. That was a great speech. Go back on mute. Okay.
Your best ever.
Thank you.
City,
Congratulations.
you know,
Thank
who
you.
was it tonight that did that? I almost said something. I'll be brief. No, we don't do that at council meetings here because it can't be done. All right, city manager comments. We've been waiting all night for this. Yeah.
So how do you pass the baton, Vice Mayor Perkins, to Vice Mayor Barose?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll have to take him out to lunch or something. No, I just want to thank everybody for your support this past year as vice mayor, and particularly from Mayor Hudson and council members. It was a great year, and I'm sure you're going to have a better year because somewhere next year we're actually going to meet in person. Sometime next year.
We'll get to that when it comes to mayor and council member reports. I'm going to give you the bad news, but we have been waiting with bated breath for the city manager comments.
Well, thank you very much. And in the spirit of council member or soon to be Vice Mayor Verosa's acceptance speech. I have nothing, no comments at this time. Thank you.
Okay, that's why we love those council. No, public comment is next. Public comment is open. If you have not previously spoken under public comment, that's item 4. Please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom or star 9 on your telephone. When it's your turn to talk, I keep looking up. I don't see any attendees wanting to talk. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person. And anyone wishing to speak, seeing none, public comment is closed. Okay, council members, city council members, and then the mayor comments somewhere around here. I've notes. Mr. Perkins, vice mayor, vice mayor, council member. I'm gonna have to come up with a new name for you. Council member.
Former.
That one.
MCE board, the whole board met. There's now 29 members of the board. It's getting a little unwieldy, but still we get work done. Mainly through our committees and then the board meets. The most significant thing that came up was we voted on a rate adjustment. Now, we did not make any rate adjustments for the last 2 years. So we made a rate adjustment, and it happens to occur on 1 January at the same time that there's a PG&E element that is being reduced. And it's kind of coincidental, but in some ways it's not, that the reduction from PG&E on your bill virtually matches the increase in our rate. And so the average residential customer will only see a 50-cent increase in their electric bill next year. Because PG&E's electric rates are going up for their customers, we are going to be about 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour cheaper than PG&E. That's will be more than 10% cheaper next year than PG&E. And PG&E customers on average will see their bills go up by about $30 a month. So our customers, our MCE customers, will see about a 50-cent increase over the entire year, or less than a nickel a month. And PG&E will see, oh, excuse me, that's per month, 50 cents a month. So $6 a year. PG&E's, theirs is going to go up $30 a month, or $360 a year. Our rates went up largely because the cost of electricity, buying electricity, went up. And so we had to raise our rates. We were, I don't want to say in danger of any, our cash flow was going to be critically close to break even. And the other is a thing called resource adequacy. We're required to buy power by 10% in excess of our projected need. So we actually have to buy 10% more power than we need, so that our customers will always have enough power. Every power producing or supplier has to do that and supply what's called resource adequacy. So about 92 or 93% of the city are MCE customers, and so they'll see a 50 cents a month increase. The PG&E, the other 7%, will see about a $30 per month increase this next year. That's my report.
Okay, I'll go to Councilmember Armstrong first, then Zafar.
Yeah, I'll report on the teen council meeting I attended last week. They just highlight one thing. It's the upcoming Teen Talent Showcase. Last year, there was about 18 submissions, and this is where teens can show off, their skills in music or visual arts or movement, those sorts of things. There's a submission window from 1 December through 2 January, and they're looking for like videos of no more than 3 minutes each. And there's a nice series of prizes up to, I think first place was $1,000, a scholarship, and either a scholarship or school supplies, and then kind of gets reduced down for second, third place, and then all finalists get some school supplies. But sounds like a really fun time. I can't wait to see some of the entries. I also just want to say it was great seeing everybody last week and last Friday at DVC at the San Ramon campus, the 15th anniversary, where they had the celebration and the completion of the new library, the academic support center, the renovated learning commons, and the cafe. Beautiful facility, and illustrious comments or comments by our illustrious mayor there at the tail end of it. But a nice cafe. We had a nice spread of food there, but I think it's going to be a great welcoming place for students, not just to, they're not just going to be attending classes now and going home to do homework, but they can actually work in some of the common spaces, hang out with their peers, get some food over at the cafe. And it's more of a gathering place now and a study place, and not just a school. So well done ceremony. That's it.
Council members Zafar.
All right, so I saw everybody at the ice rink, which was also great last week, and the Christie Yamaguchi ice rink is open. And again, our illustrious mayor was on the ice and gave a good speech. He didn't quite skate on there, but that's all right. And then I went to and attended the arts committee meeting, and there is a lot happening, with the arts in San Ramon. We have art projects that are out and about in the community. We also have a lot of performing arts events, which are happening in the Doherty Valley Theater, and they're all listed on the website as well. So take a look. So there's something to do for everybody. Besides that, I was just talking about it earlier, the trees being lit up in City Center tonight. The trees in City Hall will also be decorated by the different foundations and the committees. And if anybody's got, things lying around that they would like to put on the Arts Foundation tree, which is art related or related to performing arts or visual arts, feel free to share them. We'll put them on the tree. And yeah, other than that, I think just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I am very grateful. I wanted to take this moment to say how grateful I am to be part of this council, and grateful to our wonderful staff for making things really amazing and taking care of our city the way you do. And, I just feel very fortunate when I talk to other council members, other mayors, what a great and amazing city we are. And we can never thank enough for everything we have and everything. And this hasn't happened by accident, right? There's a lot of hard work that goes on in the background, which goes unrecognized. So really want to take a moment to thank all of you, Joe and Martin and Christina, but everybody else on the staff and Craig and your team as well. So just thank you and a happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Burrows. Take 20.
So I attended San Ramon Historic Foundation meeting on November 15th. The foundation is working on message update for membership communication, as well as their brochure updates. They're working on including QR code. So going forward, you don't need to go and type their website. You can just scan their QR code, get the details about San Ramon Historic Foundation. That's going on. And please mark your calendars. There are 2 events coming up. One is a holiday on the farm, December 11th at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then the second event, decorating tree at City Hall on Monday, November 29th. So hopefully I'll get a chance to see all our council members there. And one more thing is they got 2 new board members, Steve Shapiro and Sandy Silva. So that expands their board. That's from the San Ramon Historic Foundation. And then on November 17th, I attended our policy committee meeting, and we reviewed a couple of items. The first one, the same today, we reviewed on proposed alarm ordinance. And also we reviewed repeal and replace chapter 1 of division B6 of municipal code to address Senate Bill 1383 compliance and an update regarding city compliance with other aspects of SB 1383. So those are the items that we reviewed during the policy committee meeting. And on the community side, nice seeing you, pretty much all of you at ice skate rink opening day. Fantastic. It's a great event. And also good to see some of you at our community library opening. So it's once again, as Council Member Armstrong mentioned, that is a great facility, and that's going to be one of very important place for all our youth, I think, teens especially, with that digital library and all the services that they are providing. So especially cafeteria. In Dorothy Valley area, we don't have any cafeteria area. So this is one of the highlights for sure. So those are on community side. And yeah, I would like to once again wish you all have a great, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, as Council Member Jaffa mentioned, we are very thankful to everyone in our city staff. A great leadership by Joe. Thank you for all your great services, and thanks to everyone in your team who make our city such a great place to live. And thanks to fellow council members for being such a great council and making the city the best place to live. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I want to just ask before I make a couple statements that if anybody wants to change assignments from what we have right now in the council, please send me a note. I want to do that within the next week or two and formalize it. We'll have it out for the end of the year. It obviously, if there are any changes, it'll be after the first of the year. Really like this ice rink, I can't minimize it enough. It's almost wish we had ice in November and fireworks in July, but we'll stick with the ice rinks and the Christmas tree. I was really looking forward to, well, I remember the last time we did this, there was concern because we have gone from the previous place over by, what is it, BR1 into the city center. But when they lit up the tree and Mariah Carey started singing, everybody was in a festive mood. And that's, carried over to this year. I'm amazed that we're still in COVID. You wouldn't know it because since the fall started, there's been some festivity or festival or something going on every weekend. Well, maybe 2 weekends where I was out of state that there weren't, but I don't think so. I think we're becoming Party City USA. It's kind of neat. Back to the community college that you guys mentioned earlier. Bill Harlan was there, and we could almost write a book on how that community college came to be with Bill Harlan in the same room and city staff. A lot of people didn't realize it's in the county. It wasn't in the city. I mean, we had to fight for some of the things that we got there. And the importance truly was that with this community college, according to the president of what was Cal State Hayward, this gives us a better chance of getting something like a state college. I think a UC campus might be a little out there, but this is what they look at. This is how it all ties together, and a lot of history there. Also want to say that I believe we're looking at March 14th and 15th to go back. We, meaning at County Connection, I'm the new chairman of the board of directors for Central Contra Costa Transit Authority, of going back to Washington, D.C. for the first time and meet some of our new representatives. I will be gone the week before that. The significance of that, if you still want live meetings, Vice Mayor Barros, the 8th of March is the second Tuesday of the month. Also part of an accessible transit task force, which is really doing some important work. There's a pilot program I'd like to see permanent. And that is that we are doing 1-seat rides across district lines. It used to be that if County Connection had someone going to the VA, we would transfer to LAVTA to take them out there. Or if we were going over to, heaven forbid, a hospital in San Mateo County, we might make 4 stops. You know, it's the difference between catching Uber or back in DC. You've all been back there. Let's catch the blue shuttle and wait for 5 or 6 stops. It just is not what we want to do to the disabled or the ADA programs that we have. So somebody thought it up. It's been working so far. We'll see where it goes. And I'll keep you posted on that. That was the top priority coming out of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. I think it was 9 months of work they did that was chaired by Supervisor Sparing out of Solano County. Outside of that, can't stress it enough. You know, you guys have had a great year. This has not been easy for anyone, staff or the council itself. It just seems like every time we think we got something easy, something pops up there, and fortunately our staff takes care of it. Latest one, Chief Stevens, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Outside of that, if there's no other comments for the good of the order, we will adjourn to our next regular scheduled meeting, which will be held on December 14th,